is the journey of what it is to be Mountain View together right now and in a future season. So I invite everyone to come along as we do that. The computer didn't work the way that I thought it was going to, so I'm going to try to pull something up here so that I've got my notes, and we shall see where we go. All right, you ready?
And while you do that,
Yes.
if we're going to be showing images up on this front screen, might I recommend folks, if they want to see those images better, to move on forward, because that might help the situation a bit.
Yes.
Close.
And whether we have them this week or we'll have them in the future, I can't do all of worship and then a whole town hall meeting without my coffee. So we will have the renderings that you'll see today on the screen in a printed version that we'll be able to share with the congregation out in the narthex. Is that correct, Sarah? Okay. So if you cannot see them well enough on the screen today, just know that you'll be able to see them again in the future. Those are not like hidden or only part of this one design. The Rodwin crew has done an amazing job for us, so I'm super excited to share those with you. So, since we do have the recording going, my name is Reverend Megan Berg. I'm the new lead pastor with Mountain View UMC, and this town hall is specifically to talk about our shared partnership with Frasier Meadows on a sale of a portion of our land and our next steps. Now, everyone in this room may already know all of that, but if you are new, and some of this is new to you, we probably cannot go all the way back in time and share all of that. So the team that has been working on this has put together 2 documents to help people out. This one is just what is the team and what are we doing and how did we get formed. So you're welcome to pick one of these up. And then we have a second one called How Did We Get Here? And it will give the history that led to us being where we are today. Because of having a lot to cover, we're gonna put kind of a pin in where we are on the map right now, and we're not gonna be able to go all the way back in time and redo all of those, but know that if you'd like more information, I've got those, and I've got them in digital form as well. I'm happy to share them digitally. So, you have not seen this image that says Project Cornerstone, nor have most of you heard the name Project Cornerstone. I want to be honest, this is all out of my own head. What I wanted was for us to have something that every time you see that image, you go, oh, that's about the building project. So it's not because it's the most perfect name or it captures everything for us. It is literally just a signpost for you that when you see that sign in our Friday e-blast or on a sign out in the narthex or in a letter from me, you know exactly what it's talking about because it's always going to be about this project. And we have an opportunity to really find ourselves both rooted in the tradition of who we are, taking a chance on what it looks like to rebuild some of our facilities for the future possibilities, and then ready to launch into what God has in store for us as we move forward together. I want to say a huge thank you to the members of the rebuild team, which we'll talk about here in just a second. They have given a crazy amount of time to make not only this presentation happen, but all of the background work. So I want to talk a little bit about who's involved in this process. The rebuild team, or Project Cornerstone team, depending on how clear I am in my head what I want to call it, has Sarah Hughes as our chair, and then, Christy, how do you say your last name? Buse. Christy Buse, Bonnie Strand, Paul McClung, Tim Hughes, Renelle Randalls, Chris Fluelling, Mark Mayhouse, and myself. And we meet a minimum of weekly right now in order to know what's happening, to keep ourselves updated, and to follow through with all of the different tasks and orientations to make sure that we are doing our best work in representing and stewarding this project along. The second part of our team is that we hired Rodwin Architecture, and Scott Rodwin is here with us today, and he's gonna talk just a little bit about his team a little bit further in the project. The Mountain View Board plays an important role because they are the group that affirms when we spend money. And that's true even if the rebuild team has something we want to do, we go back to the board every time. So we're trying to keep the board informed, just like we're trying to keep you all informed, so that we're all on the same page about what's happening. And then we did hire a real estate lawyer. We knew we needed some legal counsel to make sure that as we come up with this agreement with Frasier, we have a reciprocal agreement about how we're going to move forward. Lots of the land that we're going to be using is shared, and so we just want to be really clear about what that shared land looks like, and we want to make sure that we are meeting just the general legal expectations of being in a major property sale. We are not the only ones with a team of people, obviously. Frasier also has a team of people. So Christy Heinrichs is their president and CEO, and she has been a part of some of these conversations. Our primary contact from Frasier has been Colleen Ryan Mallon. She is their chief growth officer, and she is in most of these meetings and helps us to know and understand what's happening on their side. And then I believe the Frasier board is going to continue to be rolled into these conversations. I am serving on the Frasier board, just like Reverend Stephanie did, and so I have just stepped into that role and will continue to understand what that looks like. I will say it is important that I represent the church first, and they know that. So if something comes up where we believe that there's a conflict of interest between the needs of the church and the needs of Frasier, I would step out of that vote because I would need to be fully representative of my work in the church. But most of that work we're hoping can be in partnership, that I can be a support for our members in Frasier, and that I can get to know the Frasier system better so that I can know so many of our friends who are living just across the street. Their architecture firm is Boulder Associates, and the two primary people on their team are Cole Geisler and Juan Ramos. We have worked directly with Juan, and then Cole has been around throughout the last 6 weeks, really pushing this project along. So it's been great to have Rodwin Architecture and Boulder Associates working together for the better product for both organizations. And then Trestle Strategy Group is a group that is helping us navigate the work with the city. And so they're really giving us some assistance. They do large scale construction jobs. Like they are the organizers of that. And then we have a shared team that shows up. So JVA are our structural and civil engineers, and they're doing work both for Boulder Associates and for Rodwin Architecture. They are the people who help us with the details that are beyond my skill set. So they tell us about grading, they tell us about water lines, they move things around by degrees. I have to be honest, that's not what I went to school for. So if we have questions about that, we have other people who have done a lot of work so that they'll know more than I do, which is great. They've been incredibly helpful, and they have a ton of information. Swinerton, I think, might end up being Frasier's long-term construction plan. I believe that they're going to be doing all the construction for them, but our shared piece of that is that they are in charge of moving the water main. And so we are working with them because we do have to move the water main because we want to vacate Ponca Place, which is the street behind the church. Or if you know where the church faces, it's actually the street in front of the church. But we all think of this as we all think of the west side as the front. And then lastly, Oxbow is the landscape design architects. And they are doing a ton of work for us and for Frasier right now because all of those details are part of our upcoming submittal. So I laugh with Sarah on a regular basis. They want to know what lights we want in the front entry. We've had like 7 conversations about this, and I'm like, this is like wanting to know what color we want to paint a room that is not built yet. It's beyond my comprehension, but they are very helpful on letting us know what we have to know in order to submit our site plan. I am going to let Scott come up and just share a little bit about his team and the work that they've been doing for us. I think either one works. But yeah. No, Scott, which mic should he use? There we go.
Hi, my name is Scott Rodwin. I own an architecture firm here in Boulder. We've been here for 3 decades. We do about all of our work in the Boulder area, and right now we're working on 3 churches. We absolutely love working with churches. This has been, thank you, my voice is getting bigger and bigger. This has been a sprint of a project. We were brought in about 3 months ago, and we have been working absolutely furiously to move the project forward and to advocate for Mountain View, because Frasier had started quite a while ago and had a plan, as many of you know. When we were brought in by the rebuilding team, our charge was really to help quickly figure out what the perimeter of the future building for Mountain View would be and how to integrate it with what Frasier is looking to do at this time. We have a team of roughly 4 people in our firm, and we have been sprinting for the last 3 months, meeting every single day during that time. And in particular, I want to just give a shout out to Sarah and Tim. They have been working their tails off for Mountain View. Literally, it's a full-time job for them at this point. And also to thank the entire rebuilding committee and the board for your very focused attention in allowing us and giving us the resources to actually advocate effectively on your behalf and to come up with a design that's really going to work for you for the future. Because one of the things that happen, and we'll see in the design that we're about to present, is that it was anticipated that we simply needed to respond to what Frasier was doing. But in fact, in order to create a vision that we could feel confident in moving forward with you, we had to come up with a conceptual design for you. So this is the first time that this will be publicly presented, and we hope you like it.
And I would say the rebuild team has loved getting to work with Rodwin. They've been such a wonderful partner on this. They are wonderful advocates for the needs of the church, and they listen deeply and care a lot about who we believe we are and who we want to be in our future. So I really appreciate that. Yes. So the big step that is coming is on Tuesday of this week, July 30th, we will submit a shared site plan to the city of Boulder for their review. It will include 3 major pieces that I want to name. First is the vacating Ponca Place. So the road between us will no longer be a public road like it is now. It will be a shared space for us. A parking area, some beautiful landscaping, and a few other pieces. It will be the change in our building, both the deconstruction of the southern portion of our building and what other footprint additions and changes we do. And then it is the building of what Frasier is calling the Mesa Ridge building, which will be their 4-story new additional building on the south end of our property, extending out of their property. So those pieces all had to be in place for this site plan, and as they said, Rodwin is meeting daily on this. Sarah and Tim are working daily on this. I try really hard to give over about 2 days a week, but that's as much as I've been able to. But we keep having lots of details. So in that, we have the full site plan and drawings. We have a project narrative, which is kind of the verbal description of what we're doing and why. And I'm sure some of these things, again, other people could speak to with much more detail than I can. So I'm happy to bring up others if you have more questions. Our traffic and parking is a big part of this. We have to know where we're going to have egresses out of our building. We have to know where we're going to come into the parking lot and what that's going to look like, not only for us, but for Frasier. All of our sustainability and energy efficiency pieces have to at least be named, even if we don't have all the details of them. And then the preliminary grading, drainage, and utility layouts. are all a piece of that. So again, where we were talking about our shared partners, a ton of this work is being done by JVA, our civil and structural engineers, who are helping us put that together. This is the updated version. You cannot see that like at all. This is the updated version of what you all passed when you talked about the original site plan. And there are clearly changes that have been made. So here you see the new parking lot layout, which is different than what was in that original plan, but also much easier to park and drive in. This is our building, including this addition in the front corner, which is going to be something we add. This space here is shared space that we'll use with Frasier, that will be kind of an outdoor green space, and it will have a multi-generational playground on it. And then this will also be green space that's shared for us. As you can see, here's Ponca Place. They're going to change the level on it and a bunch, not the level, it won't just be pavement. That's what I'll say. It won't just be pavement. And then back here in the north side of the building, we are hoping to have a tiered space where we could have outdoor worship. So there's some pieces related to that back here. This, obviously, this large white building is the Mesa Ridge building. That's what Frasier is working on. Frasier is working on all of this, but to be clear, that's their building. So we will get a printout of this one because I realize that is teeny tiny, but I want you all to at least see kind of where we're headed. So in that site plan review, we turn all of our paperwork in on June 30th, and then Sarah goes on vacation, yes. We all take a little bit of a break, at least on our side. The city needs time to send it to a variety of people. So the planning committee, the transportation, the utilities, fire, etc., they all go in and look at what we've presented as our shared site plan, and then they come back and they say, this is gonna work, but this isn't gonna work, or we need you to adjust this grading, or we don't think that what Civil has put together here is gonna actually function the way that they imagined it is, and we'd like to try this. And that goes on for an extended period of time, because they have to get that all the way through the city workings. And as you all know, as members of Boulder County and the city of Boulder, there are a lot of city workings that we have to go through. The city wants to be very engaged. They want to make sure that they're making the best choices, not only for us as an organization, but for the whole city. So following that, there will be a period of neighborhood comment, and public hearings will be required that will include all of the neighborhood voices that want to come and be a part of it. And then the city will return their first round of comments somewhere, I said fall of 25 to 26, but I am guessing it will come somewhere in the early to mid-spring in 26, is when we'll get like what our next pieces are that are really in depth for us. Now, I think Broadwin and Boulder and Associates will get a lot of details in the interim of things we have to work on and pieces we're still working out. And we will be following all of those pieces because there are things on our site plan that are not quite fixed yet. And we need to keep working on some details, and we know that going in. The estimated timeline, and this is also available on one of these sheets, so if you want to be able to take it home and think through it, we'll do this city review. It'll take us to spring of 2026. Mid-year 2026, we'll seek city council approval. So we know that will come up. And then 26 to 27, we'll spend hopefully acquiring permits for construction and doing some of our infrastructure work. And then the earliest visible signs of construction on our property will probably happen somewhere around winter or spring of 2027. So we will keep you all updated as that comes about. We will try to just make sure the whole congregation knows what's happening, when they're gonna tear up our parking lot, where we should park, what things we are doing in the building to make sure that we are able to continue to worship, do mission, be a part of the music community, both within our church and in the wider community. All of those pieces are lifted up every week as a necessity and an important part of who we are. All right, and then I'm going to hand it over to Scott, and he's going to talk us through the renderings.
Hi. So you are currently looking at a perspective taken from the drop-off zone in the parking lot. And I'm going to go back just a couple. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. So if you are about where the cursor is right now, you'll notice the parking lot is we'll call it a triangular bagel. For easy drop-off, there is a swoop at the bottom. So you come in off of the main street, and there is a curved parking area for a couple, or drop-off area for a couple of cars. There's handicap parking by the front entrance. There'll probably be electric car chargers in a similar location. There are 17 spaces up on the surface. And then if you are parking down below, you follow this driveway down into the basement. There is an elevator that comes up right around here. And then you would walk along this path, along this gentle curve, up to the front entry, which is right here. As Megan described before, this is a new wing. This is essentially an office and minister's wing. The rest of the building will receive a variety of upgrades from sustainability to ADA compliance, fire suppression, and basically safety and deferred maintenance upgrades that are overdue. We hope to make careful and helpful improvements throughout the building. Things like access from the Ponca Place side. So this is a pedestrian walkway, multiple points of access, and we're looking to create ramps and pathways to allow you to get into the lower portions of the building, and also to continue around the building to the front entry, to have bike parking on all sides of the building, and to be able to utilize the landscaping that Frasier is wrapping this building in. As Megan mentioned, there's a major feature on the north side of the building, which has been hard negotiated with Frasier. We've gone back and forth dozens of times. This is a detention pond. And many of you may think, detention pond? I don't know if I want to be hanging out there. It doesn't sound very appealing. But detention ponds can either be engineered or they can be landscaped and designed, and we chose the latter. Detention pond that's engineered has a rubber sheet on the bottom and it looks like a detention pond. One that is landscaped looks like a swale with trees and tiered seating, essentially an amphitheater and a stage outside. There's also an egress from this space right here down the ramps and out directly on grade. So you come out these doors right here and on grade even for ADA seating up above and then stepping down towards the stage right here. This space, if you want to go take a look at it outside, you'll discover, if you haven't already, has fantastic views and a lot of privacy. It looks out over the park, towards the mountains, and it's got a very park-like and quiet, private setting. We're going to be showing you images today that are essentially the final agreement of many, many rounds of negotiation with Frasier and their architects, Boulder Associates. It has been a dance back and forth, sometimes a little bit contentious, sometimes requiring creativity to solve technical hurdles. But for the most part, we have ended up in a place that I feel really serves the Mountain View in the best and highest capacity that it possibly could. We're very pleased with the end result of this. And I believe that you're going to get a landscape wrapper and functionality for the new church that is actually superior to anything that you have right now, both inside and outside. So now we're going to go to the fun part, which is the renderings. So going back to what you're looking at right now is this is the drop-off zone. We added a spire to the front and opened up with glass along the front of the building so that it really invites and welcomes you in. Placed a walking pedestrian plaza that doesn't just have concrete, but would have either stamped concrete or cobble or something that lets you know that this is a pedestrian plaza and not just an extension of the parking area. And then we included extensive landscaping around just for delight and beauty so that as you enter and exit, the service is that you're surrounded by gardens and trees and flowers. And there will also be benches and places for you to hang out as you, right now when you go out of the space, you're entering very quickly into a rather unadorned parking lot. This is designed to give you a much softer and more graceful entry and exit into your experience of being in the church. We'll also be enhancing the signage, and the intention of the spire is, interestingly, you have on the Ponca Place side, a large cross very similar to this. And, oh, yes? I'm sorry? I can zoom in. There you go. But you actually don't have anything on the main entry side, on the parking side. So we decided to add a spire to help give visual cues to visitors and really to everybody arriving that this is the main entry. It's to guide you towards that front entrance. There'll also be bike parking and normal signage on the front. There will be lighting so that during the winter months and in evening services that there's increased safety. And the entire area will be designed with ADA safety in mind so that when folks are arriving who are mobility impaired, that it's a really easy and safe access to the front door. This is swinging around a little bit more to the south. On the right-hand side are some of the shared amenities and landscape areas with Frasier. This is looking directly from the south. Now, one of the main things is that in order for Frasier to have enough space to build their building and the landscaping buffer between, roughly the southern third of your existing administrative and classroom and office wing is going to be deconstructed. And just to be clear, we specialize in sustainable design, and we teach it nationally. We taught it for the city of Boulder, and your building will receive sustainability enhancements from top to bottom, starting with a ground source heat pump, which serves the heating and cooling needs for the entire building. This will allow you to electrify your main utility draw, so that your solar panels will effectively be able to power your entire heating and cooling for the building. What you're seeing here is that in chopping off the southern 1/3 of the building, we're able to give it a real new identity and face, to bring in passive solar design to allow light to enter the building better than ever before. There is a horizontal white line that you might see there. It's called a brise-soleil, which essentially protects those windows from overheating inside. But the overall intention is to make the old building feel new by making it light and bright and sunny, and to give it views out into the garden areas that go between you and the Frasier Meadows. And on this side, the southern side of the new office and administrative wing has the same feel, that it's light and open and glassy and transparent. This is a view from Ponca Place, so from the east. There are some small changes here. This is the side that's probably the least affected. There are some landscaped areas. There are ramps coming up through the landscaping, but we're also intending to open the east side of the existing foyer a little bit more towards that side, so that when you're in the foyer, it feels a little bit lighter and brighter and more open than it is right now. Part of that is due to, we'll be looking to reconfigure a lot of the existing interior spaces. The interior design and the interior layout is just beginning. We've been focusing primarily on the exterior because that sequentially is what needs to be addressed right now in our conversations with Frasier Meadows. So there's a ton of work to do to figure out programmatically what's going to be inside of the box of the new church, and how it's going to look, how it's going to feel. But note that we will be working with the rebuilding committee to identify who needs what spaces in what places, and what it should feel like and how it should interact with the existing church. So this space, for example, we would be adding additional handicap accessible bathrooms and redoing the bathrooms that are immediately adjacent to the lobby. And that allows us some freedom to open up the lobby itself. This is the detention pond I was talking about. So it looks a bit more like a park, and that's very much the intention. So with some tiered seating, we are currently standing on the northwest corner of the existing sanctuary, looking to the east. So right here is the egress from the main sanctuary, down a little ramp, and then from down below in the multi-purpose room below, there will be new and improved wider stairs with good lighting coming up that would also allow you to access the space. And this is seating, or this is a view from sitting in that tiered amphitheater sanctuary looking west. And that's it.
So I know parking is a big discussion. It's always a big discussion at every church I've ever been at, so I wanted to just highlight that. There are 17 spots in the lot on the main space. In the original agreement that we had with Frasier, we were gonna have 30 spots in the garage, either for evenings or on the weekends. That has increased to 62. And so with that increase, I know the numbers that were originally presented to me are that we had a goal of having 75 parking spots, and we do hit that 75 mark between our main parking lot parking and the parking in the garage. I am also hoping to extend some relationship with our neighbors, the people at Horizon Elementary School. I would love if that was a space where we had a shared relationship and they were totally comfortable with us parking over at Horizon on a fairly regular basis. So we'll continue to work on what the other options are, how we utilize street parking, and we meet that 75 number need for our overall parking. And then I have been really honest that speaking about HVAC and geothermal is one of those things I did not study in seminary. So I'm gonna let Tim, do you have anything else you'd like to add? I appreciate Scott speaking to that as well.
Right, we know geothermal is a big goal of this church. It also happens to be a big goal for Frasier as well, which was refreshing to hear. They plan also to put as many wells on this entire site as possible. And they intend to advocate with the city to put wells in the detention pond. That's currently not allowed, but it's just flat out silly. It's a perfect place to put wells, and they strongly believe that as well. So they will be lobbying with the city to make that a possibility, because that would be a big improvement for us as well. Even if that doesn't happen, you know, we can put them under our parking lot and a little bit on the eastern side. And actually, Frasier's going to put them under their underground parking garage. That's how aggressive they're being with this. So it's good to hear they're all we're all very eager to have that happen, and it's good that there's not going to be conflict on it. There'll be, you know, kind of mutual benefit. So.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. All right, so that leads us to what questions do you all have based on all of that? Yeah, Mr. Harris. Approximately what is the cost of what we have planned?
At this time, we have not engaged in an estimating process. That said, we're a design build company. We actually build primarily here in Boulder. My guesstimate at this point is that all of the construction projects that have been contemplated fall within the total estimated revenue that you'll be deriving from the sale of the property. I can't put much of a finer point on it at this point because we haven't actually begun an engineering or an estimating process, which is the way the process normally goes. Once we come up with a conceptual design, we go through what's called a schematic design estimate, which is done very early in the design process, sometime within the next year. Then once we launch into making the design more refined and more specific with actual engineering and specifications for all the materials that are going to go into the project, then a general contractor will do a second design development estimate, and then finally a final estimate or bid. having done this for 35 years now, and architects generally don't know how much things cost. We tend to stink at that. But because we're a design build firm, we've been able to overcome that handicap in the past. And after looking at hundreds and hundreds of projects over the course of my career, my gut feel, very intuitive at this point and not a formal process, is that your budget is actually in pretty good shape, which I usually don't say. Most of our clients, I say, you are short on your budget or high on your list of wishes. But right now, I'm feeling very comfortable that what is being contemplated architecturally and for the construction of your new space will fit within the income that you are anticipating to receive from Frasier. Yes. And still have money in the bank. Yes.
I'll speak to that.
Sure.
Yeah, the question was, do you consider that budget to be all or half of what we would receive in the purchase agreement? The way that I understand the hope of the church, and I'm happy to have more people come and speak to me about this, but is that the sale is for just less than $8 million, and the hope is that we would have about $2 million to put into a pseudo endowment that we would then be able to draw interest on for the life of the church, for our general needs, and for our ministries and mission. And so we have used those numbers in our work with Rodwin to express how much our budget is. So it's not half, but it does align with having a long-term fund for the life of the congregation.
So all the architects and engineers are involved, which is great. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me the giant, like, unknown is what's the city going to say?
Yeah. Correct.
Because their building
Sure.
is out here around.
Yes.
It's pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's 4 stories tall. It's, it's not a substantial thing. So my question is, what is the consensus among those architects and engineers who work with the Boulder City?
Certainly.
Every day. What is their sort of consensus, after a year kind of consensus on where this is going to land with the city?
Let me consult my crystal ball. So Danica Powell from Trestle and her partner Maureen work extensively in the facilitation or midwifery of projects of this size in Boulder. This is not the beginning of the conversation with Boulder. They've actually been talking with Boulder for quite a while on behalf of Frasier, and have already received substantial feedback from the city about Frasier's proposal. To be clear, Mountain View's component of the overall site plan review is actually quite small, and I would say fairly uncontroversial compared to Frasier's. Frasier's the big dog. They're building a gigantic building, and they're building it right to the boundary of the property. It will be much more impactful. They have received feedback from the city that the city wants them to push and pull certain things. I have no idea if Frasier's going to get everything that they're asking for, because they're asking for a lot in terms of the visual impact or the size of the building. Mountain View is not asking for much at all. There are certainly possibilities that the city will come back and say, we don't like your detention pond. We want it to be engineered differently. Or we think the shape of your parking lot should be a little bit different. But for the most part, what Mountain View is asking for is well within the limits of what the city would normally consider acceptable. So at the moment, Frasier has a tougher road to hoe, and there is less certainty on their side that they'll get everything they're asking for. But at this point, I feel fairly confident that Mountain View is in a very strong place for what it's asking for.
So, do they need city council approval because their building proposal is outside the currently on the books, like zoning, building regulations? That might have to go there.
Yeah, the process for review in the city is shifting. For the last 40 years, virtually anything of this size would be escalated to the city council level, At this point, the City Council is trying to change their process so that it is reviewed more at the planning board level. That said, projects of this size historically have gotten escalated to the City Council level. It is, because this is not purely a for-profit development, it has some extra defense. When a developer is coming in and saying, we want to build high-end luxury condos, it tends to ire the city because the city's interested in creating more affordable housing. This seems to me, having been very involved with city policy for the last 30 years, to be something that is probably highly supportable by the city, with the potential exception of that the Frasier building is quite large.
Right, it's back off the way with the freeway now.
Yeah.
Right, and so is there a request, I guess my question is, does it exceed what that property zone, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, it's zoned correctly, but anytime you exceed 35 feet in height in the city, you are subject to an increased level of scrutiny and request for community benefit from the city. But the Frasier team has made an excellent case, citing that providing senior housing in Boulder provides community benefit, and allowing the church to remain in its current location and to improve and to fund its maintenance and sustainability upgrades and safety upgrades is a community benefit as well. Yes.
Yeah, Joey? The labyrinth, yes. Because of the need for a detention pond and possibly 2 detention ponds, we will have to move things around and shift that space.
And an answer to you, the labyrinth is awesome, and we really are interested in retaining those aspects of the history and the tradition of the church that we can. The landscaping is very much in a wet clay phase. A lot can change, and if folks have specific things that they would like to alert the design team through the rebuilding team that really are important to them, it is, in our mind, see that large green space that says detention pond? There's plenty of room for a labyrinth right there, and the ground of that detention pond is very similar to what you have right now. It's grass. So the idea of taking up the labyrinth, photographing it. Anybody have a drone? Photographing it, numbering each of the pieces, and doing it as a community work project where we actually rebuild the labyrinth in the detention pond is a substantial possibility at this point. So these are conversations we've already had amongst the design team of labyrinth is important. Can we find a place for it? And can it fit into the budget as well? But especially if it's a community project, the answer is probably yes. Other questions?
Sharon?
Detention pond is a basin used to slow down the runoff of water during a major storm event into the storm sewer system. It allows water to essentially not hit the city of Boulder's storm sewer system all at once. So it's essentially, think of it like a very shallow soccer field. Depressed down a couple feet. It's like a bathtub. The water comes off the roof, flows into that space, and for some period between minutes and days, might have water in it. But 99% of the time, that will be a dry field.
That's one I've had to learn too, Sharon. It's come up a lot.
Yeah.
I want to say really quickly, just as I'm honoring everybody's time, it is noon. We're probably going to do this for another 15 minutes. I can always answer questions beyond this. We'll also have Scott. If you have a question and you need to leave, I do have cards up here. You are welcome to come and just write your question on a card, and I'll take those to the rebuild team and back to the Rodwin team so that we can answer them if anybody needs to leave.
Tony? The addition is 1 story.
Yeah.
Tony was asking how tall is the addition going to be, and I'm assuming the addition of the administrative wing. So it's right here. So this is the space. This building in the background, this is Frasier. We just modeled in a block. But this, anchored by the spire, is a 1-story space with tall ceilings. Yes.
On the bigger, which we can't see, go back. Where specifically is the parking on the south side of the building, and is it all underground?
All right, we'll go back. The parking is not exactly on the south side. The parking is underneath Frasier. So the primary surface parking is just to the west of the existing sanctuary right now. And then this is your path to come into their parking garage. It goes underground. There are 2 stories underground along the entirety of the building and actually under the landscaped area as well. It's a huge parking lot. Yes?
Where is the elevator in the path?
Yep. So the elevator is right here, and it is roughly, call it about 100-foot path from once you exit the Frasier building along this curved path up to the front door. And it's completely level.
When we have large concerts and events here, how will that large number of people be accommodated? Will it overflow our parking every time?
Sir?
So there will obviously be the parking lot, there will be underground parking. There is still street parking, as there always has been. Megan mentioned that we're gonna work with the school to get parking there. So we'll be okay. There is sufficient.
And they're vacating Ponca, so again, that will be parking as well. It is now, but that would be an access point for us to have parking there also. Good question. When do we anticipate Ponca being torn up? I don't actually know. One of the requirements for the project to move forward at all is that we have to move the water main, which runs under Ponca. And so that is kind of the first detail on the list of things that we are taking to the city. It actually has been submitted before really the whole project so that they know. I'm sure Scott can speak more clearly to that.
As the project moves through the city, Boulder Associates, Trestle, and Swinerton, the builder for Frasier, will bring project schedules to the rebuilding team, and the rebuilding team will then disperse that information to the congregation. Yes?
Is the road right behind the church here, Ponca Place?
Just to the east of the church, that's Ponca.
Has the city given you permission to close that?
No, not yet. That is part of the submittal, is the request to close that off to public access.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking at right there. So that's Ponca Place, just to the east of, this is the church right here. And we have multiple walkways. There are paths. Ponca is envisioned by Frasier to become much more of a pedestrian way, kind of like the Pearl Street Mall, rather than an actual usable road. It's still usable for drop-off and delivery, but it is no longer a through street. So the amount of traffic on it will be very limited.
And one of the other benefits is that because it won't be maintained by the city anymore, it will actually be plowed in the winter, which it is not currently. So we believe it will actually be an improvement over what's there. You can still walk through and you can still bike through, and theoretically you can still drive through, but the hope is that that's not the major throughway anymore.
Yes?
Will our address change of the church on
The question was, will our address change to Pawnee instead of Ponca? We don't know.
Do you want it to, or do you not want it to? I doesn't matter. I think it's a little bit of I think it really should be, and if it's no longer a street, basically. Obviously, Meadows.
My guess is that the city will request to change it to Pawnee. It's generally determined by the fire department. They want to not be confused in the event of a fire. So if it says you're number 1 Pawnee, they want to know where the fire trucks are arriving.
It's one of those we don't.
And that actually is a problem that we've run into. I know that Kyle, our facilities manager, regularly works with the fire department to tell them to come to the west side of our building, but our address, when you land on it, takes you right back to that east door. So I do think there's a chance that will change our address.
Yes.
Also, if it's there, Google Maps to be able to find the church.
Very true.
And Google Maps needs to be able to find the church was the comment, and we absolutely agree. That's something we can do. We can do a good faith effort on making sure that Google has our SEO, that our information is correct. If we were to change our address, it is not impossible to use Google to make sure everybody can find us. It's an easy thing that we can work out. Right.
Search engine optimization.
Search engine optimization. So how we connect ourselves when people look for us on the internet.
So, help me out with the Concord Place. I heard vacate Concord Place. And what I figured that meant, they take the water main down. And what I figured that meant is asphalt gone, curbs gone. I'm not sure what's there, but it's no longer vehicularly accessible.
No, that is false.
Yeah.
Right, so help me out.
It is being changed from a publicly accessible city through street into effectively a privately maintained drop-off area for Frasier. It's a little bit of a hybrid because it has to be maintainable for fire, trash trucks, police, emergency vehicles. So there is still an egress and an outgress from Ponca, which you can see right here, but it's no longer cutting through the site. And the utilities that are buried underneath it are also being vacated and removed from that space because it's now private. Yes, a fancy service entrance and also pedestrian plaza.
And the reason the water main is being moved is because it's no longer a public residence.
Correct.
Where's it going to go?
The water line is likely going to come from right here and enter the building here.
That's our water main.
Correct.
It's not changed like the overall architecture.
Correct. It's all underground. You won't see it.
Yeah, that is a detail that is at the top of to be worked out items.
Yeah. Yes.
Fred.
It is likely that everything will be undergrounded. There will probably be a new transformer box, and it is undetermined at this point exactly what the design of that is.
On
They-
Frasier's nickel.
And that was a question about where the utilities will be, just so everybody can hear and are online. So, yeah.
So yes, all the utilities will have to be moved. Frasier will pay to do it.
So the parking area will be a conventional parking area, either concrete or asphalt. The reason is because pervious porous paving, which is great for percolation into the soil, is about 4 times the cost. It's also harder for folks that are mobility impaired to navigate, and it's also very difficult to plow. So it's going to be either concrete or asphalt. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
I just want to put a heartfelt thanks to Rodwin and his team. They got into so much more than they bargained for, and they have been so kind and so gracious, and we are so grateful to you. And also to Reverend Megan. She came in here, and holy cow, we threw her into the deep end. Before she was even on salary, she started going to meetings and learning all the things. And we are so blessed to have her in our midst. So many thanks.
Well, thank you, Rebuild team, and thank you all for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. You couldn't do it.